starting out there. But then other than that, it's got to be offensive. You know, aggression. We talked about it over and over again, which as we see, Battleground number 3, Team Freedom taking us to Sky. And then now bring the fight. Do not play the Sky macro game, or if you do, only when ahead.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point here because so far it's been the Battleground control of HeroesHearth. And Team Freedom's like, look, we got to take this over. The whole factor is Crowan and Hanzo. That's the main thing that you've been targeting. You first picked him twice. Now you're in the second pick position because you needed to take control. This is more your style, more that Battleground macro control. Do you ban out Hanzo or are you willing to concede it?
I just want to say that this raises, I'm not going to give a solid answer, but it's a really cool concept where even though a hero pick like Hanzo may be so phenomenal on the side of HeroesHearth Esports, that it may not be worth to commit to as the first pick slot, like kind of as your team as a deny, to the point where maybe you risk asking HeroesHearth, is it worth that first pick on your own, right? And then being able to pick it up for themselves, where you might argue it's worth that pick versus the cost of a first pick and what you lose in that slot just to take that as a deny. You know, I know we're getting very high-end draft theory here, but it is really cool to kind of see these questions here at HGC North America. Hanzo is left open. We're going to find out what the answer is. HeroesHearth Esports not committing, sticking to Maev.
Maybe they feel they can exploit that.
I mean, in my opinion, HeroesHearth Esports has never adjusted with a first pick Hanzo. They never have, right? So why would you change that? You're looking dominant against HeroesHearth Esports. You just go, yeah, we're going to keep sticking to what we're doing. Good luck. We don't think the Hanzo is enough.
An interesting stat, I believe, you know, gosh, I'm trying to remember the exact number. 4-0 when they pick Hanzo. When HeroesHearth is first pick on all of their games, they're 6-14. Like, that is a drastic difference in terms of mentality, things like that. But with Maev here, obviously they're daring Team Freedom. Genji, Abther, things are being mixed up. If we've seen anything about EU, it's time for a Samuro.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Tether this. Which one do you want?
Yeah, you're never going to ban the Samuro, are you, HeroesHearth? Can't deal with that.
I must say, I've been enjoying that. So EU Open Division, and then it's now trickling over to the Pro Division. We saw it earlier today, that Samuro pick. The game Dignitas fits.
Yeah, it's not the, I feel like we've seen, Europe is the only region I've seen with that kind of pocket Samuro come out here and there. But over the past 6 months, I feel like we've gotten 3 to 4 cases of it at the professional scene. Just now is it becoming, I want to say T3, you know, strategy, as in that kind of viable but only in niche situations. We'll see if Team Freedom wants to commit to it.
You know, I was going to bring up the Abther potential here. I just didn't expect it to be in the first 2 picks as we get a Malfurion and an ETC on the other side to pair with that Maev.
That ETC. I don't want to sit, by no means am I sitting there looking at that and going like, is this a bad priority? But it is a huge shift in kind of paradigm and adjustment. HeroesHearth, they banned out the Tyrael. They've been sticking to the Tyrael as one of their kind of higher go-tos, but we had a lot of options open, like that Garrosh, like the Diablo, and still not committing to it. Still the ETC over that. I feel like on a map where it's not tight corridors, you're not going to get much value out of the Garrosh. You're not going to, you know, laning 1-4 isn't going to be there. ETC does stand out and also has the opportunity for the stage dive. I just want to highlight that again, this is one of those moments where we see a team with a huge adjustment, and you know, why might that be here for HeroesHearth Esports? And I really like it. Their fluidity within their drafting is impressive, especially considering they have 2, you know, kind of very young members on this roster.
I'm really curious where Team Freedom's going to go with this. All right, obviously we've got the Genji Abther. The Abther generally can be played by 2 people on Team Freedom. That's Nasmus and Yoda. So depending on where they want to go, if they end up double frontline, you can expect one of those to be. We see the Greymane banned out. That's interesting. So they're targeting, they're daring them to go Hanzo at this point. I don't know if they're really going to. I guess they're not going to blink at that as HeroesHearth, but Nasmus could be Abther, Yoda could be Abther, Genji obviously is going to be Lutano. So if you're taking Greymane away from yourself, are you committing Yoda to the Abther, and is Genji going to be your sole damage dealer with somebody else on the front line? I feel like that might be asking a bit too much from Lutano.
I will say though, in the world of Yoda on Abther, that was the hero that originally, when I was like, you know, what is it, when Yoda coming into the professional scene, I feel like he was really outstanding within his Abther play in the solo queue world. Even had a little bit of it in professional play, but then adjusted roles. We do see that Diablo banned out, even after the commitment to the ETC. That is interesting to me, to see that Diablo banned in that circumstance, because normally I'd be like, this isn't a map where Diablo gains that much value, so much so that I would say Garrosh is more likely to get it over the Diablo.
Riddle me this.
Okay.
Where does Zugra go in terms of warriors? Tyrael's banned out,
Stitches.
Diablo's banned out. Is that really what you want to go, though?
I mean, you asked me where he was going. You didn't ask me where he wanted to go, Jay-How, okay? We got to be a bit more specific.
I mean, think about where we're at. Garrosh didn't look good. Muradin, Stitches. I don't want to, like, Johanna. I'd be terrified if they go Johanna. But, like, where's your engagement tools with a Genji, a new brand?
Which is exploitable, especially considering not all the damages have been committed to by HeroesHearth Esports yet.
Where's our mosh pit interrupt at this point? Outside of maybe an Impale? That last support, you want to say Uther does really well with this dive composition, but if Uther being, in terms of that melee support, gets caught in any of that, that is terrifying.
What's the off lane for HeroesHearth? Is it Dahaka?
I think Dahaka would be great. You know, you have the global. Abathur does okay because he's a global, but he doesn't win lanes. You have to, it keeps Abathur honest.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, ETC could be the McIntyre hero, play that. I mean, obviously we've seen the switch up today, but...
Yeah, I don't think this is a case where we're going to see that, especially with the double bans to the Warriors. The one thing that tells me we know it's not is the fact that there was a ban into the primary on the side of HeroesHearth Esports, showing we think ETC is our primary. We need a secondary still. Otherwise, you aren't committing both of those bans unless they feel like there's a major power play here. They go with the Blaze instead of the Dahaka. I thought they would go with the Dahaka for the Abathur.
I guarantee you, Crowan is at home. Rejoice! I get to play Li Ming again. Because in this team, it's generally been Arthalon on the Li Ming. And I ask him all the time, Crowan, when do we get a Li Ming? He made his name on Li Ming.
Yeah, I think we got to provide a bit more context.
Infamously, when Li Ming came out about 2 years ago, I think it was like early February, 2 years ago, 2016, Crowan put out a tweet. And he said, "This hero is going to make me famous," or something like that, something along those lines. A few months later, Gale Force, things start to go, things start to progress. That's when he turned pro. Won his first event. First time going to a LAN. First time going. And then they blew up real quick. They formed in April. By June, they're in Sweden. They took down Cloud9, one of the last teams to take down Cloud9 previously. They were at the top of their game in that Gale Force series. It was kind of like a flash in the pan because there was a few roster changes.
But it all happened with Li Ming.
It all happened with the Li Ming.
It was so much so that I was like, I feel like this team should not be able to get where they are purely based on the fact that this should be draft-aroundable, if you will. You know, there's got to be a weak kind of moment here within that old Gale Force roster draft, but we're going to have ourselves a Crowan back on the Li Ming, still looking for the resets. Man, it feels nice.
I mean, you get the innervate, so you got no mana issues. You can go power hungry if you want to against this composition. You don't necessarily have to worry about spell damage coming out. I mean, maybe you could deal with that with the Genji potentially on that backside. But then you've got easy follow-up. Look, I've got Maev pulling things to me. I got ETC. I got Blaze. I got Malfurion. There's so much lockdown that Crowan, it's going to be like just target practice because he knows exactly where it's going to be. The potential of this, I just noticed some of their icons. The potential of this for Crowan to pop off is extremely high. However, on the other side, Team Freedom, not been able to pull the trigger in these team fights, Dread. They won't have a choice. This composition, there's no other way to play.
There is no other way to play it. It's going to be, it's really interesting considering they pick, you know, Ultimate Evolution, which you know is automatically a heroic that goes, when you use it, you have to be able to take that fight. And that has been the struggle for Team Freedom so far in this series. We'll figure out if they can turn it around as we sit at match point between HeroesHearth Esports and Team Freedom.
No power hungry. We're going to go force on, make sure to deal with some of that dive. I am curious, though, depending on the heroic on the side of Malthael, do we get a Twilight Dream or are we going to get
I think we'll get
Tranquility?
I think this is a game where you get Tranquility, and that's purely because it's the only way you lose this fight is if somebody gets one shot. And I don't feel like the Twilight Dream's a big enough, you know, kind of deterrent. It might be for the Genji and, you know, kind of stopping that mobility and everything alike moving in, knowing that he's going to be on that lower kind of sustain. All right, so I want to bring to light some of the synergies that we already see, and because of the build adjustment, I do think this is what we're going to get, is already you go with damage at 1 for Abathur, which is going to be a full skirmish build rather than the standard shield build, and I'm expecting that to be Adrenal Overload, and then actually the main hat target to be Collusion.
The Karazim.
Karazim Iron Fist is one of the most disturbing single target damage dealers in the game. You know, you're talking about the Iron Fist, you know, or excuse me, the Force Armor on Li Ming to keep her alive. She gets ruined by Collusion with any kind of Abathur hat, especially if he goes post 7 and we don't see the Mule being picked up and instead goes with something more of, you know, kind of that needle spine damage.
I mean, it's going to be a fun one. I mean, before we went to the Clash, Karazim in Collusion, he was literally creating a highlight reel. He was springing up on Reddit, all these plays he's making. They were so like just standout plays that it was just like, man, is Collusion starting to become one of our best supports? That was, you know, when Team Freedom was still obviously killing it in the early part of the year, making their way to Clash, and he's just making play after play after play on the Karazim. The meta's shifted a little since the Clash, and we've seen, obviously, the high priority on Malfurion, Stukov, things like that. So we haven't seen the Karazim as much anymore because of that high priority on the Garrosh, on the Diablo. Saw the Karazim earlier against no CC composition. This is a Karazim against quite a bit more CC Dread.
It's a bit more CC. I wouldn't say it's terrible, right? Because it's not just, you don't pick Karazim into just crowd control that you're afraid of. It's literally just, can I auto attack you? Because if you have weak crowd control, like I don't view Arthas at the top of the crowd control, but he's a definite I don't want to Karazim, right? Because the auto attack debuff. And so it comes down to like, can I reasonably get auto attacks? Other than Jet Propulsion, Blaze is a pretty good target. Maiev, other than her Vol opportunities, Li Ming is actually one of your better because you can chase her down with a couple of bolts. Malfurion's okay. So, you know, ETC though, he is a bit more concerning. So it's a lot more threat than just the blind Tyrael we saw before. But by no means do I look at that and go, you know, you aren't able to make up for it. And I think, I personally, when I looked at this comp originally, I thought we were going to see the standard shield build out of Abathur, and I like to see this kind of skirmish more. Even if it's not a Karazim, you know, Adrenal Overload, still a Genji with more hat build and more damage and kind of dive focus, I think is absolutely necessary for success here for Team Freedom. And more importantly, it brings that fight, which you and I have been longing for the entirety of 2 games so far from Team Freedom.
Again, they're not going to be able to avoid it this go-round. You know, we beg the question on the level 7. It's hard to pass up Mule on Sky Temple, and I think the first Temple phase will be particularly telling in terms of how they want to approach this. We already saw that bottom lane Dread got shredded by that Siege Camp that was stolen there by HeroesHearth. They're going to grab another one. We do see Nasmus here up at the top right. He's going to grab the Night Camp. There's not a lot behind this, though, that's really going to force the issue in that top lane, though.
Look at this 3-man defense over these Giants on bottom for HeroesHearth, even sending a 4 with that ETC flank. They better tread lightly.
You got your Adrenal.
Lutano getting the cutoff there. It is the Adrenal Overload build. I am so excited here that we get to see this kind of synergy here between those two. We'll see if it comes to light at all. Also, Genji going full Shuriken build, though this hasn't been the kind of norm in North America. It is actually becoming a lot more popular, not in so much in Korea, but at least in Europe.
A lot of it used to be kind of reserved for Battlefield of Eternity, just for the skirmish. BBJ, though, he's under assault. Lutano somehow surviving the body blocks. Lutano not able to get that extra bit of damage in. BBJ able to keep himself alive, but yeah, I said there wasn't much behind it, but on the other side of it, HeroesHearth didn't have much to defend this. This is an entire wall down up at the top here on the side of HeroesHearth.
Yeah, and you saw the hit even on Nasmus, you know, not a hero that typically gets that much auto attack value. Even then, the auto attack speed can really kind of amplify the small advantages people gain here and there on the map whenever you get that hat target. First Shrine being contested for both teams. Arthlon found himself a Lutano. Now he's going to find a Collusion. If that's a hat behind that, that would have been a lot closer to death.
Krohan's made his way up here on Li Ming. They find the root target, but that spell armor for Zugrug on the Anubranch, more than enough to keep himself alive, but not enough to keep himself around, as he's going to go ahead and tuck wings and run.
The biggest question here is, what is HeroesHearth going to do once they finish that middle shrine? They have a huge time advantage between the middle of those shots ending and then the flank towards top. It's going to be important that Team Freedom do not get cut off in that choke to escape in the bottom right-hand side, which they're already moving up to try and zone off and buy even more time between those two. This is very well done from HeroesHearth Esports. Maltho actually made the rotation to control the rest of mid, and nobody's controlling I, so actually Freedom's pulling ahead on this, even though Team HeroesHearth is doing all the things quote-unquote correctly.
Well, I really want to take a look. Obviously, that top 4 going down on the side of HeroesHearth, but because Mule's picked up at level 7, whenever you commit to shrines, whenever you commit to these things, but Arthlon under assault here, pulls back into the roots. There's going to be Krohan trying to get the blow up, unable to. His Collusion able to dash out of their Zugrug, though. However, Krohan might find himself a kill. Looks like Zugrug finally is going to fall down. But if you commit to these shrines, Dread, you have to commit to fully taking down these structures, because the Mule will bring them up. If you do not make sure and confirm post shots like this right here, you have to confirm some of these, because if not, Mule's going to be around.
Jay, I hate to break it to you, but did you know Mule used to exist on more than one hero?
Hey.
And it still used to not be the go-to? This is like for a majority of Heroes of Talent. I'm just saying, I find that amazing, you know, that we look at Abathur now and say that is Mule at 7, even though many, many heroes have had the opportunity to pick that up at the 7 talent tier and wouldn't do so for a long period of time. I just find it crazy, you know, on maps like Sky Temple that we see that kind of coming back to life, and then not only coming to life, but being overly meta. Granted, you know, Abathur has some of the less trade-offs at that talent tier than some of the others. Zugrug waiting on the side. That BBJ is going to be an easy kill here as they all move in, get the impale damage, throwing out the fists. Good night, Malfurion.
Yeah, nobody checking the bush there the entire time. We had Maev over on the side, but ETC up at the top. Not enough peel, not enough control. That's a...
Oh, wow.
Oh, Crowan. That's the first kill that Team Freedom's had in a game and a half, Dread.
Yep, and, you know, it's hopefully not going to be the last one here for them. Rounding out the heroics, do we see anything crazy? The one thing I got to ask is, what do we see out of Malthael? Is it that Tormented Souls or Last Right? I hope it's Tormented Souls.
I think it depends on if Mouth goes Tranquility.
Man, he goes Last Rights.
Yeah. Disintegrate to pop that cocoon.
Yeah, Disintegrate to deal with the cocoon. Tranquility is what I'm expecting out of Malfurion, but unless they want to get the kill onto the double Genji and they think that that's going to be big enough, it's just anytime you have Bunker, that's stop. They go with the Twilight Dream. Bunker is one of the best, you know, anti-bursts, right? And then Trank helps with everything else. Trank is just pour into major amount of bursts, which is normally when we see that. But actually, it is going to be the containment disc, and that is where things get a little bit wild.
Is that, I mean, if you can isolate, I'm trying to think of who you even need to isolate, because Mosh Pit, again, there's the interrupts and the amount of melee on the side of Team Freedom. There is one interrupt, and that is in the form of Anubarak. We have seen, going back to the clashes, a cloned Anubarak for that extra CC follow-up blow-up. So that is a possibility that we have to consider with this composition.
But that was paired with a Stukov beforehand. Ooh, even Genji getting caught out by HeroesHearth Esports. That's a big setback now for Team Freedom. But yeah, what I was saying is the Stukov was part of that composition, which made the double lockdown a lot more worth. Not so much the case here when you look at Team Freedom, what they have. There's that containment disc, going to lock down a new Barak. Also, when you're asking, you know, oh wow, is he able to survive this? That was definitely a bit of miscommunication there from HeroesHearth if he makes it out. But what I was going to say is that, you know, what do we see that use for? Cocoon's biggest advantage is getting the kill within that time frame. You have a couple of heroes that are pretty good. Disintegrate is one of the best tools, if not the best tool, to deal with a Cocoon. But what if you can't make it out past that, you know, through the bunker and everything alike? If everything else in the composition is strong enough from HeroesHearth, which I feel like they very much have that, then why not just get a containment disc for yourself, buy your own, you know, temporary Cocoon and go, okay, well, if you're going to play this isolation game, we will too. What happens when you don't have that isolation? You know, I'm not going to say it's confidently, but I feel like it's pretty heavy that the default kit of these teams is going to fall in favor of HeroesHearth Esports if all heroics kind of go out the window.
Dread, it was just last year, May, June, when Anubarak was kind of in his prime again. He's been kind of in and out of his prime. Cocoon was on such a short cooldown that it was setting up so many kills. Then we started to see a lot of kind of counters coming in, obviously Disintegrate, things like that to burst it through. Anubarak saw some minor nerfs. Containment disc you can't pop through, and that is a self-controlled release if it does not, if you cancel it before the timer. So, and it's on a 50-second cooldown. It's been shortened.
It is literally a better Cocoon.
Yes.
Is what you're trying to tell me.
I'm just saying
minus
that
a couple seconds.
Minus a couple seconds. But the fact that you can control, it is a skill shot though, a little bit different.
Seven-sided last rights. Isbu is out of here, going a bit too far out. Containment disc doesn't be used there. Arthlon hits one. Twilight Dream from BBJ. Nice route to be able to buy enough room to get out of here. Crone throws out the combo, but by no means is threatening Team Freedom out.
The fact that Team Freedom is so aggressively moving forward in each bush, you know, we saw them kind of sniff it out there in the middle. This time they didn't sniff it out. They have to check all these. You've got Leaming Magic Missiles. You've got Moonfire that you can use. Things like that have to be used to find this. We see Team Freedom. They're trying to look for the invade. They don't know. Malthael's actually stealing the camp from HeroesHearth up at the top left as well.
Man, and then they pick them up at the same time. Now HeroesHearth. I will say, if you're going to make that play and you are capturing that camp as the Malthael, you want to wait a little bit longer. And that's for your team to get out of the threat area where you're not going to possibly get caught. Because when you see that double cap at the exact same time, HeroesHearth goes, hey, we might have an opportunity to force this. Whereas, you know, if you see that a little bit later, then suddenly you're like, oh man, and Malthael was top that entire time. They were winning everything. I mean, by no means is Team Freedom struggling here. They have a lot going for them here. Blaze still worrying about that top camp. Malthael is making the transition down. And a lot of shots here on the map.
On a pale horse, bringing him down extra quick here. Again, we haven't seen the big mosh pit follow-up. 7-sided strike. The clone is out. It is going to be onto the Genji. Yoda goes forward on that clone, but he eats so much damage in return. Nice deflect, going to keep him alive a little bit longer to try and poke down here the side of HeroesHearth.
HeroesHearth Esports has sent Blaze to capture the shots on top, worrying about the time between the two.
Malthael's going up there, though.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty much the consideration towards 16 is very, very real here for HeroesHearth. So much so that they're looking to damage control before that becomes a problem or find a way to get a pick elsewhere. This is where Nasmus really needs to kind of make sure, you know, to not kind of misstep whatsoever, because if HeroesHearth did get this collapse up on top and get this kill, which, yeah, he's very, very close to.
I was also watching Maev was being chased away. Maev obviously being down in that bottom lane to keep an eye, make sure they don't go after the boss. That's why you see Arthalon down there. He has the escape potential to get out of there, but here comes another potential fight. Zugrug in very deep. One-man mosh pit as the cocoon goes out. That is going to be almost for BBJ in so deep, Dread.
Yeah, 7-sided strike goes down. Twilight Dream lands on a 2. Jet Propulsion's going to lock down Malthael, and they end up getting the kill here. Reset number 1 for HeroesHearth Esports. Zugrug trying to get out here, drops an Impale. Crone moves up with that Calamity damage.
Again, they have to confirm these structures. That top temple did not finish, and it did not kill that top fort. The mule goes down. They have to confirm these structures, Trent.
To be honest with you, it's hitting a point of the game where the shots don't even outweigh the, you know, mule. So it's actually more important for HeroesHearth to clump and just deathball and push manually. You know, kind of back in my day, we had to mount up and drop in front of a fort before we could take it. That's how HeroesHearth is going to have to make this map work right now. Not the standard rotate, get those shots. They have to kick it classic here. They did get the 16s, though, which is the biggest silver lining, you know, for them being able to take an even talent here. Everything past the first Rhine phase is them just kind of chasing down Team Freedom, and Team Freedom can't do that anymore.
Potential another gank here from Team Freedom. They're moving forward. Arthalon is trying to check. I don't even know if that Fan of Knives actually hit the bush, but he's like, I think I'm good.
It's one of those, if you throw it out before.
Right there. Oh, they got sniffed out. Moonfire finally went out.
It's one of those, if you throw it out before and somebody's in that shrub, they think that, you know, you see that and confidently they're like, oh, they know I'm in here, right? It's actually amazing, man. That's one of those small psychological things that I find like so interesting. It's like, because when you're that guy in the shrub, you just go, do they know? Do they know? But you honestly, like, when from the other side, you're like, they gain nothing. BBJ burnt the ice block already. 7-sided goes down. That's collusion in a bad spot. He's going to be met with a root. Bunker is used.
Well, we got the big tether here. See if we have the power slide follow-up. See if he can get in there. Zugrug taking a lot of damage. Power slide directly onto it. Twilight Dream gonna keep a Nubarak locked in, unable to get out of there. Now they turn their attention directly to the boss. HeroesHearth turning things around here. Team Freedom, I would love to see them go top lane. It looks like they're going. If they can threaten that top keep, boss is there, but you're not going to get much more out of it. That top lane is already open.
Yeah, it's very important that HeroesHearth try and get people back as fast as they possibly can. BBJ has already started the back channel. He cannot defend this himself. This keep should be dead. It's dead.
This is such a good trade.
Oh my goodness, I am surprised. There was no hat on collusion that entire time too with that with the 13-16 and the adrenal overload. I don't know. I think they're, and maybe not the keep for sure, but definitely get it a little bit closer than that.
Well, either way, they don't get the keep. They ended up getting the boss on the side of HeroesHearth. That will need to be responded to. Again, Abathur has done so much. We are in a single temple phase. Ishbu starting to check these bushes as he casually walks through there. But now HeroesHearth taking control of this temple will finally, Dread, finally be able to get this top fort that has lived this entire time.
The top fort ends up going down. They'll have the camp pushing up there. Mule doing its best. Sadly, it's going to blow up with this. Good night, my sweet prince. Oh my gosh, I forgot. There he goes. I forgot he didn't get the instant explosion. I thought they might maybe had changed that. I was like, wait a minute, that's not how I remember this going down.
Back in my day.
Back in my day when Mule was an option on specialists. Don't forget Demolitionist. Hold up though, HeroesHearth. Catch out Team Freedom here. They're completely split, not going to use the containment disc or anything of the like here to try and maybe get a bit more aggressive. Abathur still soaking on bottom.
HeroesHearth being super aggressive here. And camp is down. No more spell armor there. But they still have quite a few minions. End up taking the entire wall. They also start to take the lead a little bit in terms of experience. So that race towards 20 is there. Also a little bit of a change up for Crowan. Obviously getting that. We see Diamond Skin picked up at level 16, so a little bit of a different change to make sure that you can survive that dive that's been so prominent on the side of Team Freedom.
It's
so
it's one of those. If Li Ming, is the isolation target or the cocoon target and can't, get herself out of it because she is the #1 tool that they're kind of relying on to be able to break out. Diamond Skin helps you keep up a lot more, and beyond that, any kind of the skirmishing capabilities. There's less poke necessary in a map like Sky Temple 2, and you're into an Anu Barak frontline, which is pretty successful at dealing with that too. So one of the moments where you go, I actually really like the Diamond Skin over the Mirror Ball is the standard that we see at the 16 threshold, having those 2 extra magic missiles. Real nice.
When I rated in WoW, my #1 tip was, it's cool that you do damage, but when you can't do damage?
When you're dead.
When you're dead. So make sure and stay alive, else you're not doing any damage. And if you're Blaze, you stand in the fire.
Yeah.
Perfect tips. WoW 101.
You say that, but I just feel like then I automatically know I'm going to have those people on my squad where I go, I'd rather you be contributing a little bit harder and risking your life, because I think that would be probably a better trade-off. But that might be the support's perspective, and I go, I'll just keep you up.
Just so you guys know,
I got you.
I already talked Dreadnought in when the next expansion comes out. I believe, I don't know if it was announced, but I think it's later this summer. Dread's going to be raiding with me.
Not true.
100% confirmed. He doesn't know it yet, but he is.
I do rated Battlegrounds when I used to play, and that was so long ago that
but you take rated, you convert it to raid, and that's what we're going to do.
My goodness. We got the game, though. We're ready here. Action here for game number 3. Yeah, Saved by the Bell, luckily. Whew. Almost had a raid for a moment there.
One of the funnest gaming experiences of my life, Dreadnought.
You know what mine was?
Old War, still my favorite.
Playing Professional Heroes of the Storm. You know what my second one was?
Raiding.
Commentating it.
Not raiding. We see Team Freedom making their way up in that top lane. They're going to threaten this top keep because it's so low. It's going to keep HeroesHearth honest, force a rotation back here from HeroesHearth as they do fall back to defend just like that. Also, buying a little bit more time for Team Freedom as they find themselves down in the experience mark, but controlling the rotations there. Of course, the Abathur are going to help them soak as well.
It's all about fog. Man, ruthless rotations there from Team Freedom. If anybody's in this shrub, not any longer. Gonna take the Giants for free. The race to 20 will be won by HeroesHearth. I don't think it's gonna matter, but it's strange to think that they will end up actually winning the macro game in the race to 20 when kills are so close. Structurally, they've been behind the entire game, and there's an Abathur on the other side.
For me, this is a really interesting spot because the Siege Jets have to be responded to because they're way too powerful. Temples fire on the closest lane, which means that mid-top temple will focus the mid-keep first. Team Freedom already has some damage on that bottom right wall from that previous boss. So the priority over the temples is always what speaks to me. And you can see Team Freedom, they're going to try and have a camp pushing at the top. So the priority on temples is really telling at this point in the game, especially depending on how much health that mid-keep wall has left on the side of HeroesHearth and how much that second temple will get, or the beyond that will get.
But what I see being kind of posed, if you will, at the other side of the table for HeroesHearth is a win condition. There is at least one keep in the boss lane, which is again providing another opportunity to where they can go, it doesn't matter how far behind we were this entire game. If we win that boss fight, we get the boss. We have a way to end this game now. And because they've done such a good job kind of clawing on, holding on here to this map, I mean, Freedom is very much ahead, but HeroesHearth, they have a shot now.
Ooh, Lutano just kind of snuck in there. See if he gets an Abathur hat or an Abathur clone. Ishbu's like, wait a minute, I better get out of here. Lutano, see if he goes searching, gets the dismount.
Is he gonna
oh, the bolt over. I don't know if he had picked. I wish I was paying attention.
No, he's dead. He's dead. He's getting collapsed on right now. 100% there's a cocoon. Oh my gosh, he's going to be going down. Nobody can make the save in time. 7-sided.
That's big time.
Good night.
That's big time. Boss up in 40 seconds. Top lane under so much pressure. Temple's still there. They might be going. They're going to look to take down this mid-keep. Could be double keep play. I mean, right now, Team Freedom just created a huge advantage thanks to that play from Lutano and the rotation down from the rest of the team.
Huge note as well. Again, not putting the cocoon onto the kill target, not allowing buy time with that rotations. Smart choice here from Team Freedom. Just one of those things that I feel like I experienced on my solo queue adventures way too much. To where I'm like, ooh, yeah. Want to point that out here. Team Freedom holding on.
Are they going to boss? That boss will be spawning any second now.
There it is. 15 seconds before ETC. It's free. I say that, but I don't know if Arthlon's going to give it up for free. It should be free.
I mean, no ETC here. I mean, this is a desperate attempt. I actually don't think that they need to contest it, but Arthlon's going in. Arthlon goes in, but the 7-sided strike, but the Twilight Dream's going to be there. It's not enough, though, as that's going to be Arthlon going down Maiev. Krohn trying to do whatever he can as he hops into the bunker.
Resets. If they give resets over to Li Ming, that might be a problem. He gets one. Krohn, he's going to get a second one in a second. Krohn is half a second from popping off in this game. Holy cow. They hold off right now, but look at the core. Night Camp on top. We got the boss on bottom, but that's got to keep the go through. Oh my, they do manage to hold on there, but that was just a half step away from HeroesHearth going 4 versus 5. Doesn't matter. We've got it.
And if they wipe that, it's probably going to get, yeah. So HeroesHearth holding on again. They now are dropping out. And Uberak, though, walking straight up to the core, as is Mouthdale. 2 members down. Blaze, ETC, and Li Ming are going to be all that's left to try and defend here as the core starting to fall. Hivemind was picked up as well, but you got to be near somebody. Nasmus and Zugrug here. Mouthdale and Uberak trying to take it down. Lutano is joined. Cores are there. Moshpit is here. Let's see if he can land it.
Let's see if he can get it, but I don't know. 60% and counting. Moshpit's going to be a solo party there onto a Uberak. 40% as they end up getting the first pick off there, but that's in favor of Team Freedom. They are going to survive here, win on Sky Temple, and send us to a game number 4.
Whew. Looks like we got ourselves a series now. All it took was Team Freedom to be like, we actually know how to fight.
Genji. I want to see more Genji. That's all I know. If that's what it takes to be able to get that kind of offensive play from Team Freedom, the proactiveness, the rotations, it seems like Genji's the answer. When we see them on slower stuff, everything else is a bit slower. I know I have a hard time supporting Genji blindly as well, but
I wouldn't even say it's Genji, because I would say Lutano is carrying his weight. Lutano has carried his weight. You know, I'm sneaking at the numbers. I'm trying to see where is kind of the deficiency coming from. I really think it's that front line that really was hurting them in the first 2 games. They change up the mentality. They go Genji, Mouthdale, Karazim, Anubarak. They are all in. There is no standing back and protecting my area. This is a team fight. And for it to be Sky Temple at that, a map where we know Team Freedom loves to try and control rotations, win something, play slow, just choke you out, win the map. Instead, this time they literally took the fight to HeroesHearth, and they won. Are they going to do it in Game 4? I don't know.
I don't know either, especially because, you know, as we hold up a minute here, as we bring him back to my other page of notes, when the maps came in, I guess I didn't even write down the ban, so excuse me.
Infernal Shrines was banned.
Was banned. Okay, so we don't even have Infernal Shrine, so we're out of the realm.
Infernal and Dragon.
So I'm expecting we go to Towers, probably?
It depends. Here's the thing. Battlefield of Eternity is available, and Team Freedom has done well. Despite not being a team fighting team, they're not bad on that battleground. And if they want to keep up the momentum and keep up the team fighting, it depends on if HeroesHearth picks the battleground or opts for first pick. That is something to consider. But if you do go down that battleground route, you kind of have to ban Hanzo.
I was going to say, if you want to get real wild, like, you know, if I'm HeroesHearth Esports in this position, right, and I know Hanzo has to be a focus, I'm up 2 games. I just lost the last one, and I have the opportunity. Actually, I would just say the biggest thing I do is I would choose my map, as long as I'm comfortable with all the maps evenly, I would choose my map to incentivize Team Freedom to blast pick the next map onto Battlefield of Eternity. Because if I can make it to where Hanzo's priority in the draft shifts so drastically that it suddenly becomes a little bit more awkward than what we see already with on some of the other maps, right? Where you already see resources being committed. If you can kind of amplify that and exaggerate it in some way, shape, or form, especially in a map that's going to matter, I feel like it makes so much more of the draft plan kind of crumble. I mean, I know I'm going, again, very kind of high-end here, but those type of things really do matter, especially for bigger tournaments here. And it's something I'd be looking for if I could. I'd just be like, can I get the Hanzo to adjust in the last game? Because otherwise, I can flex my draft so hard in that final game that they just go, how do we deal with this? Like, there's so much now that we're so worried about ridding them.
I just like the fact that Maiev kind of passively being let through in a lot of our drafts here in North America, and there's been mixed success. I think actually pretty good success against Maiev. When Maiev is hot, it's hot and you see it, but when it doesn't, you're kind of like, was it Maiev or was it just kind of the team against it? And so far, you're finding different ways to play around it. You know, when we first saw a lot of Maiev at the Clash in particular, if it wasn't Johan, if it wasn't Tyrael, we saw a backup option of Anubarak. This time, Anubarak is willing to come in, but when it had time to get out of there, obviously when you use your burrow charge, you become unstoppable. You go and you kind of disappear from that tether. So there is some counter options, and if Team Freedom can keep up this style of play, we're in for a much better series. If we go back to the same style that we had before, all of a sudden you're like, here's the passiveness. Is it going to work out? Sometimes it does. Don't get me wrong. If the other team isn't bringing it to you, the passiveness can work in their favor.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, yeah, Team Freedom is one of the – they get ahead, and then they'll play that kind of, take what they can get knowingly and safely, and then everything past that point is kind of really is my opponent going to force the hand. And if they aren't forcing that much, it still looks good on the side of Team Freedom majority of the time. But we are ready here for Battleground game number 4. Where are we going to be headed? I feel like you're